After a 5-week absence, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell confirmed he will be returning back to work next week on Thursday. He tweeted, "I'm looking forward to returning to the Senate on Monday. We've got important business to tackle and big fights to win for Kentuckians and for the American people." McConnell suffered a concussion after falling at a dinner for the Senate Leadership Fund in March 8th.
Before saying he intends to return for sure, his fellow Republican colleagues in the Senate started making preparations in case the longtime GOP leader in the Senate retires. According to The Spectator, Senators John Barrasso, John Cornyn, and John Thune, three Johns, have been making the rounds among other senators in anticipation of McConnell's departure. The magazine also reported that Cornyn has been courting some senators, even those whom he has not been close to. Top GOP spot in the upper chamber after 16 senators voted to delay the leadership. Should he retire, this group of holdouts could be key in selecting McConnell's replacement. So what do you think about this?
Well, I'm glad that McConnell's able to make it back. I know that was a serious injury that he suffered. I think that, of course, there's always somebody who's looking for leadership. We saw Florida man try to get it last time. Didn't work out so well. And, many people believe that the underperformance in the midterms for Republicans was due to what he was doing. And I think that McConnell, he is a very effective politician. And I think it's going to be a loss if Republicans lose him. As much as I don't, he's not my guy, I think that, it will be a serious loss. What he did with Merrick Garland, keeping him off the Supreme Court was wickedly masterful. It was masterful politics. And I think he's a valuable asset for the Republican Party in the Senate.
Yeah, I think most Republicans don't agree, though. Mitch McConnell is very, very unpopular in his own party. There's a reason that there's been a bunch of runs at his seat. Now, as you say, he is a masterful politician. That I will definitely grant him. He is very good at keeping his own power and in the Senate. But I think there's a reason that there have been these challenges, these whispers now, anticipation of him retiring. He really has stymied a lot of the populist energy in the Republican Party. He has sort of superficially worked with Donald Trump, but then really worked against his agenda in a lot of ways. The relationship between them is not very good. And this goes back way before Trump, honestly, because I know we like to talk about Trump and it's always a fun subject, but McConnell was unpopular during the Tea Party days as well. There's this long-standing understanding among the GOP base that McConnell is not really their guy, that he's there to essentially to cut taxes and maybe to fund a war effort. And that's basically the only two priorities that he has. Meanwhile, the Republican Party and Republican-based voters feel like they have been put on their heels both economically and culturally for decades. So I think there's the real sense that McConnell is holding the party back despite his sort of his wins within the Senate. Because I agree with your characterization that when he wants to do something in Washington, he can get it done. The problem is what he wants to do is not what the GOP base wants from him.
Yeah, no, he's like I said, he's a wily old politician. He knows how to pull the levers of government. He knows how to stall things even when he's in the minority. He knows how to deal with presidents of the other party and how to stymie whatever it is that they're trying to do. I would say I understand what you're saying, and he certainly did not have a good relationship with Donald Trump because Donald Trump expects, obsequious behavior and fealty, and I don't think that Mitch McConnell gave him 100% of that the way people like, Lindsey Graham and others in the Republican Party and particularly in the Senate have. So I understand that there's some tension there. As far as your characterization of him in terms of culture, I would agree, but I don't know that that's what Senate leadership is for. And that's not really, I'm not looking for someone like Chuck Schumer to be a cultural leader. I'm expecting him to do some savvy politicking the way he did with the Inflation Reduction Act and some of the things that he was able to do, even though I disagree with him on a multitude of things. I'm looking for that kind of maneuvering. And I would say that, in recent times, except for maybe Nancy Pelosi, there's never been anybody who's really maneuvered to get what it is that Republicans say that they want better than Mitch McConnell in the Senate. Now, again, maybe John Thune or one of the other Johns, Cornyn, will be all the Johns. We know that Florida man who said that he wants to sunset Social Security and Medicare, he's not the guy.
To be fair, he wanted to sunset everything.
He
didn't specify he wanted all of the laws to sunset.
Right, but
I really disagree with this idea that the point of Senate leadership is somehow not to deal with cultural issues or not to deal. The point of Senate leadership and the whole point of having political parties and officers who we vote for, right? We vote for elected officials, is to enact the policies, allegedly. Now, I know that's not what actually happens, but that is the point of Senate leadership, and everything else are elections, right?
Yeah, we agree.
And so I really don't think the base feels that McConnell has advanced their priorities in the Senate. And I think there's probably the correct perception that he's a guy who first and foremost cares about maintaining his own power in Washington. And sadly, I think that's correct. Also he ran you mentioned the midterms, right? He ran in the midterms. He told Senate Republicans, no agenda, right? Don't run on anything. Just say Democrats are bad. Well, that didn't work out, did it? So I really I think there is a deep and abiding mistrust of McConnell in the base, and I think there's going to be quite a scramble. Now, whether whoever succeeds him is actually going to listen to the average GOP voter any more than McConnell did, that is by far an open question. But there's one more thing I wanted to get your thoughts on.
Sure.
We have Dianne Feinstein, who's out of office, right? You mentioned Nancy Pelosi; she's getting up there too. We have Mitch McConnell,
she's out of
leadership. She is retiring from leadership. But we have McConnell, who's also pushing 80, I believe, right? Not to say that, of course, we hope that McConnell is okay, that he recovers well from his concussion. But are we run by a gerontocracy?
So I don't want to sound ageist. I do think that there is something to be said for experience, and we certainly have quite a bit of experience when you're looking at guys like Chuck Grassley, who says he's going to run again. I think he'll
You even mentioned Joe Biden and Trump, two guys who are actually silent. I believe they're both silent generation on the tail end of the side. They're not even boomers.
Right. No, totally. And, Florida man is Rick Scott, just in case anybody's wondering who I was referring to. But first of all, I don't think that we are run by a gerontocracy, because we do have some young politicians who are rising. Number one, Maxwell Frost, who has kind of captured the imagination of many in the party. He's, in his 20s. Of course, AOC is still, I think, is she 30 yet? I'm not even sure. The entire squad are young people. And they realize that in order to get young people's votes, and again, you mentioned Nancy Pelosi, she came out of leadership, and now you got Hakeem Jeffries in there, who is at least younger. So I think, we're not run necessarily by a gerontocracy, but I do think that there are older people who sometimes are out of step with what it is that the younger members of the party are about. And as far as McConnell and his beef with Trump, I think it even heightened a little bit even more when he saw when McConnell, that is, saw the underperformance because of the candidate quality in 2022. And I think that was part of his reasoning for not liking what was going on. But we'll see with as we move forward, and I guess we will be back with more Rising.